I hate to cut you off, but we have
cancel each other off.
legitimate breaking news
Breaking
here on
news.
the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
This better be real.
This really is.
another New
This is
England
from
state?
Sarah Barshop, the ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Rams. She just tweeted out, quote, in a statement, Tony Buzbee says, quote, all but 4 of the lawsuits filed against Deshaun Watson have been settled.
Uh-oh.
Quote, we are working through the paperwork related to those settlements, according to Buzby. Quote again, once we have done so, those particular cases will be dismissed.
Wow.
So,
Okay,
all but 4.
All but 4. So I believe 24 have been officially filed, 25 and
How
26.
does nobody else have this yet?
And how?
I would tell you that I trust. I know that name, and I'm pretty sure that a reporter of that caliber is not going to put that out unless she got it right from Tony.
No. I'm just.
So
She has 16,000 Twitter followers.
No, she's legit.
and is
No,
verified
I
by
wasn't
ESPN,
criticizing
Oh,
her.
you're just wondering why
I'm just
nobody
wondering
else.
why others are not.
It just
So you're
happened,
saying
right?
women
You
don't
just
know
saw
anything
this?
about
No.
sports?
Yeah,
It
it just came out
wasn't a knock of
6
her.
minutes
It's like,
ago.
why am I not seeing it from others?
Okay,
now?
well, let's quickly digest that.
So read
news.
that again.
Let's
Read that.
speculate
All
recklessly.
but 4.
So all before.
You want me to read that one more time?
Yeah.
We're getting Tag Board next month. We'll be able to pull this up
I
live
got a
on
statement
Tag
from
Board,
Buzby. You want me to read it?
Do you have it? Yeah.
The cases against Deshaun Watson started with one phone call from one brave and strong woman. The woman was Ashley Solis. At the time of that call, she was just one of hundreds of calls seeking legal assistance that our firm gets weekly. Even though she was originally turned away by our screening process, my staff insisted that I personally speak with her. I'm glad she persisted. Once we took a second look, and after having contact with Watson's original lawyer, who disrespected Ashley and her profession, and who arrogantly minimized the conduct of someone he referred to as an asset, I was convinced that our law firm should try to help her. As a result of Ashley's lone but brave voice, so many women who have allegedly experienced the same conduct were emboldened to step forward. I am incredibly proud to represent them all.
Yeah.
They have endured vile criticism and fanatical ignorance. They faced withering cross-examination by skilled litigators and stood firm. They are all. You want me to keep reading this or no?
Yeah,
Is it
do
too
it.
much?
Yeah, keep going. You're getting to the good
Okay.
stuff.
They are warriors all. Today we have an important announcement about these cases, but it is important to point out that without Ashley Solis, the conduct experienced by these women would likely have continued unfettered. The truth is, without her courage and willingness to come forward, the NFL wouldn't currently be contemplating discipline. There would be no examination of how teams might knowingly or unknowingly enable certain behavior. Sports teams wouldn't be reviewing their personal screening processes, and this is important, they wouldn't have dominated the sports headlines for more than a year. Today I announced that all cases against Deshaun Watson, with the exception of 4, have settled. We are working through the paperwork related to those settlements. Once we have done so, those particular cases will be dismissed. The terms and amounts of the settlements are confidential. We won't comment further on the settlements or those cases. As stated, Ashley Solis is one of the heroes of the story. Her case has not settled, and thus her story and that of the other 3 brave women will continue. I look forward to trying these cases in due course, consistent with other docket obligations and the court schedule.
So
End quote.
the big question from that would be, how does this change? And I think the obvious answer is it doesn't, because there's still
The 4 cases.
there's still more cases.
And Ashley Solis, of course, is the one that we saw on
She was the first
HBO.
woman that spoke in the HBO piece.
Right.
Reckless.
And I thought the more believable of the 2, or at least the one that seemed to have, she was more impacted by what happened
So
to her.
when he says they've been settled but dismissed, I'm trying to figure out what do you mean.
So
they're
when
not
you
bringing
settle
them-
a case, no.
they're not taking those to court.
They're done.
Okay,
They're
okay.
over.
There's only
Yeah.
4 cases
There
now
won't-
that could possibly go to court.
Okay.
Yes.
Doesn't
And
mean they couldn't eventually be
so
settled too.
I think, and one of the things that we discussed, I think about 2 weeks ago, was if there was even one case that was going to go forward, that the league was still they could be in a holding pattern.
Right.
Because I know I read so much this weekend, and a lot of it was even tagged as rumors. People are now, that's where we are. They're putting rumors out there. There's no factual back to any of this. One of them was a report that Watson was going to get suspended for 60 games.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, so stop with the
I think I
rumors.
put that up, just so you guys know.
Stop
Threw it out
that,
there.
Okay? But one of the things I read was the league is very hesitant to do any kind of punishment as long as there's even one case that hasn't gone to court. And there's 24. So the number If you buy this report, well, it's not a report. Busby says
Yeah.
in his statement.
Right.
So 24 of them have been dismissed. He writes that specifically in the statement. That means there's still all but 4. I'm sorry,
Right, so
22 of them. 22 of them.
I think it's only
20.
20.
Jay, only 24 have been officially filed.
Right.
So 20 of
but
the 24
there
have been
was
settled.
2 that were going to come forward.
So 2 more
But as
could
of
be
this
coming. But
moment-
as of right now, just to make
Right.
sure everyone's on the same
Yeah.
page,
So if-
20 have been settled.
Right.
20 have
24
been
filed.
settled, 4 not settled, and 2 might still be.
And see, the
brought
reason
in.
I don't think that changes much, if anything at all, is because if the league was still going to wait to give any punishment until this is all done through the court system, you still have to wait. It's going to take just
Right.
as long, perhaps longer, to do 4.
Right.
And we don't know when that's going to be.
Right. And it's still possible that those 4 might settle. Maybe they're
wonder-
looking for more of those 4 because maybe
That's
they
what
have
this
stronger
is.
cases. I don't know.
This is still the same campaign from Tony Buzbee that he's
Yeah.
been running the whole time, where he's letting things out when he wants them to be let out,
Yep.
keeping it in the news, keeping it in the headlines, because of course that's the first question now is what about these other 4? This is another probably strong-arm tactic to say to Deshaun, and his people, now this is where you're at. All you got to do is wrap up
Yeah,
these last
it's
4
leverage
now,
for
these
Busby.
last 6. So why don't we make this happen? Wouldn't it be nice if this all went away? I mean, you're right though. This changes nothing. We got to remember Ben Roethlisberger was suspended for 2 incidents, pretty much. So it's not like all of a sudden the NFL is going to be like, oh, there's only 6 now. All right, we'll give you a game or something like that. So it's still, we don't know enough, obviously, but it's still just Tony Buzbee releasing what he wants to release when he wants to release it and keeping himself in the news.
Yeah, and it does. It keeps it in the news cycle. I think the big thing is it moves the ball forward. Like if that finish line was if all of these cases were settled, I wonder if the league in talking with the Browns or in talking with Harden didn't actually say when these are settled, we can move forward.
And I told we talked about it last week. I said it, when they were talking about the league, and the second the Houston Texans were inserted as possibilities to be added to the lawsuit, I think the NFL, the Browns, the Texans, Deshaun Watson's lawyer, as well as Busby said, "Look, man, hey, I know you wanna clear some stuff up, but we too far down the street now. This the last thing we need. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you what you're going. I believe right now the Cleveland Browns know exactly how many games he's getting suspended. And Deshaun Watson and his lawyer they negotiated the time. They say, okay, this is what we're gonna get. Now let's get to the other stuff so we can dismiss these or move along. Because what was gonna happen is the longer and the NFL did themselves in disservice here. Y'all could have just basically gave him what he was gonna get and kept it pushing, right? And then you decide on what you want to do later. But the longer you let this carry out, you gave the leverage to Busby. He's saying, well, okay, I could just string this along for eternity. And what happened is when you string things out, that's human nature. Everybody, to a human, certainty is the only thing we know. That's why people don't like dying. They're like, well, I don't know what's next. I need to know I go from first grade to second grade to third grade. We don't want no uneasiness in terms of what happens in life. So people were getting out of hand. So this one right here, I think the league says, look, you already know what you're going to get to dismissing these and we'll settle it and keep it pushing.
I think the biggest thing perhaps from the statement itself was there are NDAs that are in force now.
Yep.
Because he
That's
said
true.
we cannot comment. Now, one of the sticking points, and Busby had said when he did the interview on 92.3, was that one of the sticking points early on was they did not want to sign NDAs. And whatever the number was, now whether that ratcheted the total number up in the 20 settlements, I don't know. We'll never know.
Right.
We won't know if he spent $1 million in total to make all of these 20 go away.
I'll bet we find out at some point somehow.
Well, we typically get like breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Where
You
someone
got
will
this
say,
many,
well, I can tell you
somebody's
this much, it's 7
You're
figures.
telling me one of those women isn't going to leak to a girlfriend or a boyfriend? I mean,
It usually happens that way when there's one person. Now there's 20.
now there's that many of them. Just
so
numbers.
even if it's Busby,
we're gonna find out.
Busby wants it out there too, so Busby can say, "I did my job."
Right.
And if you're in the pipeline to look for a civil attorney, I'm your guy.
And let me ask you guys this: what's your quick opinion on this? Do we think these other 4 are going to actually go to court?
No.
Or do we think these 4 maybe had the strongest cases, so they're getting a heavier
I
settlement?
think that right there is probably true.
They have the strongest cases. To me, I think this is what the rest of them got between 20 and 50. Reckless speculation. They got a little something.
Yeah, that is reckless.
That's reckless as hell.
I can't imagine that.
Put that number down in the font.
Right. Right.
Well, listen, if it's $50
Bush
each,
reports
that's a $1 million check.
Right. So, but these four right here, they're like, oh no, we're gonna hold you aside.
Yeah.
Y'all, you the star recruits, you the star witnesses.
I think
and
they
you
have
could
to
be hired.
Well, we know too that there were some of the women, and that's why we said earlier last week. We said some of these aren't going to go to trial because we know that a lot of the evidence is pretty damning towards the women.
Yes.
Pictures that were sent, texts that were sent back and forth, multiple visits after they claimed the first infraction took place. Like, why would you go back to somebody that
But
did
that's
you?
just some of them, right?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps it's a calculated risk by Buzby saying, this case isn't strong. This case I could lose on this. I could lose this case on that. Let's get a number together to make it look like we're moving this football down the field here. 20. Here's our number for the 20. Now, these four, you've got nothing on these four.
Right.
And by the way, discovery is June 30th. So that's a big date that we need to keep in mind. June 30th is when the court has issued as the deadline for discovery. That's when Harden will know exactly what evidence Buzby has and vice versa.
And
I think it behooves everybody to settle before that date.
I still wouldn't be surprised if they settled these last four even this week at some point.
Yeah, I don't think these, because here's what he wants to do. He wants to signal to anybody else out there. Now that the NDA is out there, he can't really say, I've got a $5 million settlement for these people. All he can say is, I won that. I got money for that. Yeah. Now I got four more. If all sides are here, the thing that you want to tell the women or the accusers is, I mean, do you really want to wait this out a whole nother year? Because now you see everybody else done got their money.
Well, and think about
you gonna let this play out?
Sure.
Gee, think about this from Watson's perspective. If I'm Watson, like one of the main reasons I'm settling is because I want the uncertainty gone.
Yeah.
I want the suspension, whatever it is. I want to be able to move on. So if he feels like he's got to settle to move on and get that suspension and move on from that, well, he's got to settle them all, not just 20.
Yes.
So I find it hard to believe that he'd agree to settle these 20 without at least knowing there's a good chance they're going to settle the others.
And that will be a real 180 from him saying, I'm going to fight each one of these until I'm vindicated. I did nothing wrong, and I will not settle. That was his tone.
I'm looking at old statements from Buzby. Buzby also said, we're not settling no matter what.
Both sides that said they wouldn't
so
settle.
Buzby was dug in, we're not settling.
Yep.
And Watson said, I'm not settling. I'm innocent. I'm going to clear my name. He kept saying, even when he talked to the media last week at mandatory minicamp, he said, what the most important thing to him is clearing his name.
It's almost like both camps aren't being completely candid in this instance.
Wait, what?
I know. Can you believe it? I'm as shocked as you get.
Have we seen anything yet? Because if it's not out there, it's coming. And I don't know that. I would love to be able to reach out to Harden or Buzby to see if they would come on, because now Harden's going to have to release a statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we know that these guys aren't adverse to playing it out in the
doing
media.
like 32 Zoom interviews as we speak at the same time.
The reason I'd like to talk to Harden, I want to know this. We know that Busby's clients have NDAs. He said we can't comment further. I wonder if
we have NDAs?
Buzby issued the same to...
Right.
Because here's the one thing that I would never do a settlement unless this was part of it. You want to be able to stand in front of microphones and say, I maintain my innocence. I continue to say what I've always said. I did nothing wrong.
That's got to be a part of the agreement.
I can't imagine that they would muzzle Watson that way. So I would be looking online for a Harden statement.
Nothing yet.
And I imagine it's going to come swiftly. And I would even think that perhaps Watson might have a line or two in that statement, because you want to be able to get out there if you're Watson and say, I'm not admitting I did anything wrong. What I'm doing was I'm caving to the financial pressure that these women were putting on me to make this go away so I can continue my profession.
That'd be a gross way to put it.
Well, it is a gross way to put it.
I don't think you should put it quite that way, but
what he's going to do is he's going to try to make it seem like he did nothing wrong.
Right.
And that's, in his mind.
I don't think he could say anything until these other ones are settled, though. I don't think he'd do a victory lap
Harden
now and be like, hey.
Albert Breer just tweeted this, by the way. 20 cases settled, 4, including the initial plaintiffs, Ashley Solis, remain. But getting closer to legal resolution here should make the job of the NFL and arbitrator a little easier as they close in on a decision. Per Tony Buzbee, the sides agreed to keep terms confidential. So
The sides.
The sides.
Okay, the terms
Yeah.
confidential.
Yes.
Yeah, but that doesn't muzzle Watson
Right. No,
from
that's
standing
true.
up and saying, "Look, I still maintain my innocence.
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong." So let's play this hypothetical. If all 24, and I guess that the other 25 and 26 just miraculously went away.
I don't know. I mean,
He never filed them.
Or the Texans, too.
And
Yeah.
he's never filed against the Texans either. So that could have just been a leverage
pressure,
move.
right?
It probably was a leverage move. But let's play this hypothetical. We think that July 1st, which is Friday of 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from Friday.
Correct.
I think that
1
that's
week from Friday.
Yeah, 1 week from Friday,
Right.
and about 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
If you're looking at news dumps and when's the most strategic time to do that, Friday before 4th of July weekend, which 4th of July is on a Monday, that gives you 3 days.
Yeah.
And Jim Donovan was hearing they expected to know before the 4th of July, so I just immediately went to July 1st. So let's say there's 11 days and counting to July 1st. Let's say they settle the other 4. What does the league do if all of these suits are settled? What's the suspension in your? I know it's a guess.
Yeah.
But what do you got?
I've been steadfast the whole time. I've said the same number. I haven't changed. I'm convinced of this. 8 games is what I said originally. I still think it's going to be 8 games. I could see it even get knocked down to 6 potentially on an appeal. But I would be anything more than 8. The NFL is going to have a huge. The NFL has already been marred by this. Anything more than 8, it's going to be a huge fight from Watson and the Players Association. I think 8 is enough to say, hey, we're taking this seriously, but not enough that the Players Association is going to fight it too much.
Were you gone Friday?
No.
What day were you gone last week?
Wednesday.
Were you here the day we did the discussion about the Players Union using as leverage the fact that they were going to fight this forever?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember if you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
here that day, because
Yes.
if you weren't, I wanted to get your thoughts
Yes.
on that.
Yeah.
So basically, for those that aren't sure what we're talking about, the Players Association came out and said, we are going to vigorously defend this. And we immediately said, yeah, sure they are. They're going to basically say, we want discovery in the Cowboys,
Right.
the Redskins football team, Commodores, Commanders, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
They were going to ask for things that could have been very embarrassing for the NFL to put out there.
Yeah.
Funny how the train is moving now.
Yep.
After that story
Yes,
came out late
no
last
doubt.
week.
I
Because
think
now the train is moving.
I think 8's the number that both sides, if you
buy
will,
that, Mike?
can live with.
I do. I think that sounds. I think that sounds absolutely right. I think it's like they don't want to do the whole season thing because that would be. I mean, like you said, that's going to be a huge nightmare for them. And it's gonna. That sounds like a scary enough number that it sounds. I don't know if it's fair. What's really fair?
Right,
You
who
know what I
knows?
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that sounds like the right thing. That sounds right.
It sounds. What I'm looking for here is the compromise, because the NFL is between this rock and hard place. If they go too lenient, you're going to have the women's groups and anybody who's trying to advocate for women's rights saying, "Wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
26 women,
And
you're giving them this?" Or you've got those on the other side that are saying, "This isn't commensurate with what you've done with other cases."
And then you got Trevor Bauer at home going, "What the what?
Yeah, exactly.
6 games?
Yeah, I know.
I'm done for 2 years of
He's
my
done for
career."
324
I know.
games.
Man,
And
that's-
what do you think it's going
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Well, I would have guessed that it would probably be 8 games prior to the NFL Players Association coming up signaling, hey, we got some smoke for you if you want to go down that route. Please just be clear about that. I think now the new suspension is 4 to 6. I think 8 was where it was at until the threats came up. Now I'm looking at a situation where they're saying, I'm going to give you 6. You can appeal. You might get it down to 4.
Or maybe 8 to 6.
Or 8 to 6. Somewhere. So for me, the ending result is somewhere between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
Real horrifying question that I've asked before, and I'll ask it again to keep horrifying everyone. This all gets settled. Then all of a sudden, somebody comes out and says, you know what? I was wrong too. And they decide, no statute of limitations, they decide that they want to all of a sudden pursue, doesn't have to be with
The statute of
Then you're in
limitation
double
runs out.
jeopardy, aren't you?
At that point, unless it's a more serious charge, like it's a rape charge or
And
something like
and
that,
he's in criminal
I think it's a
court.
non-factor.
So you're telling, what if somebody says, I've
Well,
got
Mike-
these text messages, and hope this doesn't happen, but what if somebody's like sitting out there?
But they've had every opportunity to come
Yeah.
forward because so many other women have.
Right.
Aren't you looking at another accuser that comes out in 2 or 3 months? Aren't you immediately going to say, where have you been on
Yeah,
this?
yeah, right.
I might.
Like,
I was.
why now?
Plus, if he got 8 games, essentially, let's say it ends up being 8 for 20-something, 24 accusations. If there's one more accusation of this in the same exact vein,
Yeah.
they're not going to add games because of
unless,
one more.
to your
I
point,
would
unless it's something that
Yes.
we haven't heard about
Unless
yet.
it's a
Right.
criminal
Unless it's
level
real
thing.
And by
I'm
the
just
way,
saying you can't just settle with future cases that don't exist.
True.
That statute
And
of
he's got a
limitation,
bit of
I
a
believe,
pattern.
is 2 years on this. The statute of limitation is
2 years?
Is 2
Okay.
years from when the complaint initially happened. So
From when the alleged
alleged
event
incident
happened.
Yeah.
And I would think that we've been dealing with this for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
So I would think that would be
If he could settle these other 4 cases, I think they suspend him in the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully we put this all behind us.
I have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
mentioned-
we have McNuggets reached out to Rusty Harden. Did you tell him it was McNuggets calling?
Steve Becker did, so we'll see how
good.
that
Yeah,
goes.
I'm just thinking he's more likely to return the call to the
Sure.
show if you tell him, yo, this is McNuggets. We'd like to get you on the program.
I
Right.
hit Connecticut.
But we have reached out to Rusty Harden. We'll see.
And
And
Busby.
Busby,
And Tony
too.
Buzbee.
And
We've reached
right.
out to both
We'd
now.
take either or both. I'd like both at the same time.
That'd be great.
That'd be
Bring him in
phenomenal.
studio.
Pause. Go ahead.
But I've
So
G.
would
Bush,
Deshaun
that's wrong.
Watson.
That's wrong. I have a legitimate question though, and this legally this is not my expertise.
None
I
of
have a
us are.
question.
We're just
What?
June 30th, discovery date deadline.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does that mean that once that deadline passes, the evidence is locked in regardless? They cannot introduce anything new
Yes,
to
I
this state?
believe
Just
so.
so
Well-
everyone out there who may be in my situation,
No,
just clarify exactly
I
what that means,
believe
Jay.
there is an avenue to reintroduce evidence that hasn't already that wasn't already known.
According to Law and Order episodes I've
Yes.
seen,
So,
that's true.
Yes.
well, no, this
true.
actually happened in the Roger Clemens thing,
And
which
my
was a
cousin
Rusty Harden
Vinny,
case.
too.
So I don't know exactly what the Texas state laws are, but I would imagine that there would be some procedural
Right.
avenue to bring in evidence that wasn't previously known to the court.
Or to shoot somebody in the face. It is
Right.
Texas.
Now,
Yep.
Bull, do you happen
Yeah.
to have a lawyer on retainer that we could talk to?
I do, but
Jiminy Christmas.
she couldn't help with this
Literally.
situation.
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to joke.
She only looks at my contracts. No, I don't. I used to, but I do not.
So, again, the big news is if you're just joining us, 20 of the 24, not counting the 25th and 26th, which have never been filed.
Correct.
20 of the 24 that have been filed have now settled. There is an NDA in effect for both sides, so neither side is allowed to talk about the financial terms of it. Watson is allowed to give interviews and to tell his side of the story, to reiterate his innocence, which we expect him to do. It also, I don't know what the women are allowed to do in terms of interview with media. Are they allowed to talk about the case?
Yeah.
Is it a complete gag? I don't know.
How long does this last where you'll ask people, do you believe he actually did it or not? Like, right.
I think this stains him forever, guys.
Do you think that people in their mind will say, now there's a group of people that when they see him, they're like, he definitely did it, or is there still a group of people that
You
say
mean
he
based
definitely
on the settlement?
yeah, based
change their
on
mind?
based on the settlements?
I think there will be. I think people have already decided, believe what they believe, and I don't think most people will change their mind just like their politics, as we
Sure.
talked about.
Yeah.
I
They're
think
dug
it's
in.
hard to get people to change their minds on things like this. I mean, I feel the way I feel about it. I don't feel any different now that the settlements.
I don't either.
I feel like there's a lot of gray area probably with a lot of these cases. I don't feel like Deshaun. I don't buy that Deshaun Watson is completely innocent. I don't know. I don't have facts.
I feel he did things that he wouldn't have done had these episodes been recorded.
Yeah.
And, my dad always used to tell me, you live your life in front of a camera. When you're not on camera, conduct yourself as if you are.
That's right.
Because you might be. And something you may do may come back to hurt you.
Yep.
If you always live your life as if everything's being recorded, when I had a criminal tell me once he used to steal, and he didn't need to, but he used to tell me all the time, I would go in and case the place and make sure there were no cameras, then I would load up my pockets. Well, just you don't know where there may be cameras that you can't see. So I think there probably things happened in these rooms that he wouldn't be happy about if someone said, I've got videotape evidence.
I know I went.
But
through,
I don't know that he.
I got to admit, I kind of went through a red light the other day, like as it was turning red.
Oh my God.
I'm hoping there's no camera.
Yeah,
Turning
it might be
yourself
busted.
in.
Somebody always told me, man, if you working somewhere or you doing something in this business with somebody, it is best never to have a romantic relationship, any sexual encounters with those individuals ever.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to Kinko's, do not have sex with somebody at Kinko's. Like that's not cool. Like you always got to keep
I
it
think
separate.
you could have sex with the Kinko's woman.
Nah, it's on a copy machine. They're gonna see it. There's all kind of proof in there, right?
That's true.